My name is Alan. I always loved acting, and every year in my school I used to get a role in the local play. I loved playing the main part, but to be honest, any part I loved playing. I was reading through my local newspaper one day when I spotted an ad for an audition for a TV show. I was so excited about it. An audition in my very own town for a TV show. It was so attractive to me. I rang the number as soon as I got my confidence up. The lady on the phone took my details and then gave me an email to email a short video of me playing any role. I chose to send her the best role I could think of, which was a play I did last summer. I waited a whole week and got no reply. I was about to lose hope when finally my phone rang and I was asked to come to an audition which was happening on Saturday. They emailed me the script. I read through it. The role was me walking up to a guy, asking him what advice he would give me on my wife cheating and act really upset. I practiced in front of the mirror for about an hour, making up different dialogue that would suit the role. Finally, the day came for the audition, and I was nervous, but I just had to park the nerves and realise this is what I always wanted. There were 3 people I assumed were judges sitting in the theatre, and a man on stage. As soon as I walked in, the man said, "Just in time, Alan, is it?" I said yes. When I went up on stage, he said, "Give it your best performance. Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, I'm as ready as I ever will be," and gave a smile. I jumped back with fear when the man pulled out a knife and started screaming. I was trying to run from him and he grabbed me. I looked into the audience and the 3 people were smiling. I felt sick, knowing that if I didn't do something, he would kill me. He started shouting hysterically like a madman and raised the knife again. I pulled him back and he fell off the stage. It was like I could hear a crack as his head hit the floor hard and there was a pool of blood. I was on stage, frozen in fear. The 3 people started screaming. I wondered why they brought me here to an audition to kill me. They all got together and held me, while one rang the police. I kept screaming, "Let me go, let me go." I said he was trying to kill me. One of the men shouted, "You bloody madman, you know that was the role you were meant to play. I sent it in your email." A few minutes later, when the police arrived, I showed them my phone and the email that was sent. It was then the man realised he had sent me the wrong script. The man I just killed, who I thought was trying to kill me, was only acting out a role that was in the script I was meant to have received. He never had any intention of killing me, and the knife wasn't even real. But the police had confirmed even before the email was read, the man I pushed had died from the impact when his head hit the floor. My name is Jason. I am an exterminator. For a few years now, I set up my pest control company, and thankfully I am getting lots of work getting rid of mice, rats, bugs, etc. I just had a big job in an old house that was infested with rats. It took a whole 2 days to rid the place of them, but the owners were thrilled with the results. I am relaxing for the weekend with a glass of wine watching TV. All of a sudden I felt very itchy. I don't know why, as I just had a shower. I was trying to go to sleep that night but felt it impossible with the itch. I couldn't take it anymore, so got up and had another shower. When I got back to bed, I had eventually fell asleep. When I woke up, I was sweating and looked at my body. There were sore red blisters all over. I heard a knock on the door and got dressed fast and ran downstairs and opened it. My best friend Jimmy said to me, "Wow, you look like you've had a rough night." I said to him, "You can say that again." I looked in a mirror across in the hall and could see rats crawling up me and lots of bugs. I looked down at my hands and they were covered in bugs. I screamed and my best friend shouted, "What's wrong? What are you shouting at?" There were more and more rats crawling around my room and other sorts of bugs. My friend didn't seem to see any of them, as he kept asking, "What's wrong?" I shouted, "These rats, these bugs," but he just said, "What rats? What bugs?" I heard a ringing in my ear, as if the rats and the bugs were trying to make me crazy. Then the noise became jumbled words, as if they were trying to communicate with me. Finally I heard the message they were trying to send. The bugs and rats you killed, or the itch you feel, because the bugs and rats you killed are haunting you.
Good evening. Tonight I'm your host, Mr. Ramsey, and I'll be collaborating alongside the Assassin Rapper to present you this scary, uber animated horror story. If you enjoy this collaboration, then please let us know by dropping a like and letting us know down in the comments. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. This happened about 6 months ago, and I recently took an Uber for the first time since this incident, so I thought I'd share. I was leaving a work function at a bar around midnight in a large city, about an hour away from the suburban home I share with my partner. For reference, I'm a woman in my mid-20s with an average build. Not tall, not strong, definitely not threatening in any way, and I was a bit buzzed that night. I'm talking like 3 drinks, so not incapacitated in the slightest. Anyway, I'd ordinarily take a company car home, but I hadn't reserved one since I didn't know what time I'd be leaving, so I just decided to Uber. The company reimburses me for the bill anyway, so it was no difference to me. Once the Uber pulls up, I say goodbye to my colleagues and get in the back seat. I'm always very nice to my Uber drivers, so I introduce myself. This driver, let's call him Ed, since I don't actually know his real name, seemed totally normal. No red flags, and we make pleasant conversation for about 15 minutes until we are squarely out of the city on the way to the suburbs. From the pleasant conversation, I learned he lives in a certain neighbourhood not far from my home. Note that his neighbourhood was relatively nearby, would be completely out of the way en route we are taking to my home. The conversation reaches its natural end, so I just stay a bit quiet and start looking at my phone, Reddit, whatever. The quiet is interrupted by his voice, suggesting I take a nap if I feel tired. It didn't even strike me as weird at first, so I just thanked him for the offer, but I wasn't that tired. He then said, "Oh, I always get sleepy when I'm drunk. Are you sure?" At this point, something in my body made me even more wide awake than before. I replied that I wasn't drunk and, like I had said, I just had a few drinks, so no need to nap. Haha. "I'll be home soon enough anyway." He dropped it after that, but I still thought it was weird he'd say that. About 5 minutes later, he says that the highway had some weird construction going on, and that the single lane traffic ahead would make my trip way longer than it needed to be. He asks if it's okay to take another route. I oblige, already on edge and just wanting to be at home. My partner calls at that moment, asking when I'll be home, and I make sure to make it very clear I was talking to my significant other. Something was weird about this guy, and I wanted him to know that someone is expecting me at a specific time and knows where I am. After I hung up the phone, the Uber driver stays quiet and we get off the highway, on a different exit than I'd ever used, but I guess that'd be expected on a different route home. I'm bullshitting on my phone because I don't want to talk to this guy anymore, not even looking up until he says, "My house is only 5 minutes from here, okay?" Pit in my stomach, I'm probably a good 25 minutes away from my house right now. A distance enlarged, I'd later learn artificially. by his shortcut. I say some nonsense about how I like the neighbourhood and how my boyfriend and I were thinking of moving here instead, blah blah, basically anything I can think of to make it seem like I don't think this is weird and I'm not picking up on any signals. Surprisingly, he doesn't say anything in response and now starts driving on a road in a direction I knew led to my house. Phew, crisis averted, right? Except, not exactly. 15 minutes to go and my surroundings are more familiar. Just as I'm starting to feel more at ease, he starts asking questions about my boyfriend. What does he do? How long have you guys been together? And other seemingly normal questions. Finally, with about 10 minutes to go, he asks if my boyfriend makes me happy. He does, very much, so I gush a bit and say yes, he makes me very happy. Then he asks if I make him happy. I thought that was weird, but humour is my defence mechanism, so I say, well, I should hope so. 8 minutes away. He turns onto a side street and pulls over onto the side of the road, looks back at me over his headrest, and asked if I'd make him happy too. I said, what? Mostly because I can't even believe what's happening. He asks me again, do you want me to make you happy tonight? I took a second to think through my options. I'm alone with this guy who's behind the wheel. The street is dark and I don't see any lights on at nearby houses. Close to 1 AM at this point on, and at a weekend, and I don't know what the hell this guy has in the car. I default to the response many women know to be the true barrier to men's advances. I don't think my boyfriend would like that very much. His weird grin falls away from his face and he says, he doesn't have to find out. Come on, make me happy. I know a few ways you can start. I tell him my boyfriend is expecting me home any minute, and besides I love him and don't want to hurt him. Can you please just take me home? I carry a small knife and a little canister of mace, but all I could think of was to appeal to this guy's sensitive side. Somehow it worked and he didn't say another word after that, just turned back around and silently drove me home. Weirdly enough, I say thanks as I get out of the car. Old habits die hard, I guess. And that was that. I got into my house and start crying immediately for some reason as soon as I hug my partner. He tells me I need to contact Uber immediately and tell them what happened so that the guy doesn't try to take advantage of anyone else. I agree and pull up the app to file the complaint. Except when I look at my last ride, the picture on my profile was 100% not the same guy who drove me home. The car was the same, but not the driver. The guy in the photo was brown and wore a turban, maybe early 40s. The guy who drove me home was white and seemed just a bit older than me. Uber never followed up with me and just refunded my money. I did tell the police what happened because my partner insisted, but they didn't take me seriously since nothing actually happened. I was worried for a while since the guy knew where I lived, but apparently it's long forgotten since I just took an Uber today. Moral of the story, always make sure the photo in your Uber driver's profile matches the person who's driving the car. Thank you all for listening. I want to thank the Assassin Rapper for his fantastic animation work, and I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any future collaborations.